Thank you. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to, this is the Dark Matters channel. Please go back and review some of the videos that are already there. Please subscribe and like the video. And please place some comments under the video, pro or con. It really doesn't matter. But someone had to say this. This was long before P. Diddy. What we're seeing happening in the news of late started long before there was a P. Diddy, before P. Diddy was even born into the world, to be honest with you. I'm going to play a video of Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips, authors of Trance-Formation of America. And this is from 2001, where some individuals read the book and gave some feedback on reading the book, Trance-Formation of America. This is their book, and you can find it. I'll put the PDF file for the book under the description of this video. But I'll also play Allison Leilani Carter, who is another sexual assault victim who's been crying out and crying in the wind and not being heard. And I want to give a special thanks to Ms. Jaguar Wright for her persistence, even though she was first thought to be crazy and arrested. But I've been given a gift of discernment, spiritual discernment. I can almost hear someone speak for 30 seconds and I know when they're telling the truth. And I knew when I first heard Jaguar Wright, when I first heard Kathy O'Brien, when I first heard Allison Leilani Carter, I knew these people were telling the truth. I knew they were telling the truth because I had been doing this research myself for about 30 years. I had several experiences. I'll give you those very quickly. My first experience was with a phone call that came in through the law firm I was working for at the time, and the operator transferred the call to my desk. I was a legal assistant. She transferred the call to me, and a lady on the call was screaming that, her and others had been kidnapped. They were being used by people, elites in high places, and she needed some help. And I said, ma'am, where are you? What's your name? She couldn't give me any information. And I was not able, when I got ready to transfer the call dropped. So I didn't even, at that time, there was no way for us to call back or find out where the call had come from. That was my first initiation into there's something going on. I knew that this person was really absolutely needing some help. And so, that kind of haunted me. And I started to do some research, and I found out about Trance-Formation of America, and I listened to Kathy O'Brien give an interview, and I just knew what she was saying was true, because the one thing this woman had said was, they were being held captive by some, people who were in power. And I said, my goodness. And then, not too long before that time, they had this whole scandal with the pages with the Senate, U.S. senators essaying some of their pages, and that kind of just got swept under the rug. But I don't forget much, and so I remembered. I said, what happened to these senators who were being accused of essaying their pages, the Senate pages? And this was in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. But anyway, so then a friend of mine asked me to watch a movie called 8mm, and I think you can watch it free on Tubi. But 8mm, starring Mr. Nicolas Cage, is an eye-opener, because that movie really lets you know what people who are in high places, what they do for fun, and I'm not going to give, I'm not going to be a spoiler. Go watch the movie. It may help you to bridge the gap between unbelievability to believability, that something is going on in our society, and it's deep and it's dark, and we need to shine the light on it. The light has got to be shown on what is happening to children in this society. When I started to hear about so many children coming up missing in these, these foster care and the CPS program, I'm like, Child Protection Services, where are, how is a state losing 3, 4, 5,000 children? Where are the children going? How do you lose that many children? So that kind of, made me realize something is really to this. There's something going on. So when the P. Diddy stuff came out, I said, okay, now they're going to try to make this man be the big bad wolf, just as they did with Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby didn't learn that behavior. No black man breaks down the doors in Hollywood and opens up opportunities for his people and decides he's just going to be a sexual deviant and think he's going to get away with it. That's illogical. And when something is illogical, when it doesn't meet logic, you have to question it. Who protected this man? Who allowed this man to get away with this stuff? Who wasn't willing to tell that this black man was using drugs to get women high, or often, Caucasian women high, and rape them? Who allowed this man to get away with this stuff? So then you had to say, okay, this is bigger than a Bill Cosby. This has to involve a lot of other people, like judges and district attorneys and police officers and maids and housekeepers and caterers. And there had to be a lot of people who knew what these people were doing. We know Hugh Hefner had the Playboy Mansion, and that was, a commonly American theme, with the ladies running around with the bunny suits on, and nobody thought that there's something wrong with somebody having a mansion, calling it a Playboy Mansion. We just thought, this is what he was entitled to because he was a rich white man. Nobody questioned whether or not minors were being sexually assaulted and sexually trafficked through this situation. Nobody questioned it. Now we have P. Diddy, and P. Diddy is now going to be the poster boy for this deviancy. And I just think it's highly unfair, highly egregious to now say, oh, this is something so horrible when this is going on long before a P. Diddy. Hugh Hefner got to live and die an icon in America. Nobody brought this man to task. Nobody said what were the ages of these women, and I'm sure, and we all know a lot of those women were underage. We know this, so we need to stop that acting like this is something new. There's no new thing under the sun. But I hope P. Diddy sees this, because he is a Hebrew Israelite by nationality. We are a captive people here in the United States. And Joel 3:3 is going to tell us what's really going on, and that this is not new. This has been going on, and particularly with our people, when our people being a captive people anywhere in the world, people that are oppressed and people who are in captivity are subject to a lot of sexual assault. Their women and their children are often sexually assaulted. That goes with being a captive people. Okay, so we know all too well in our communities that sexual assault is rampant, and it's rampant because so many people have been sexually assaulted themselves. P. Diddy being one of those people. He was a victim of Clive Davis. He's the one that taught P. Diddy this lifestyle. So why isn't Clive Davis all over the news? Why are we pointing fingers at this wealthy white man? And this is not a race issue. I'm going to get into that a little more. Please don't stop watching the video thinking this is a finger pointing back and forth at race. It's not. I'm making a point that there's a people in this nation who have been oppressed and have been a captive people, and we have had a lot of abuse done to us, which makes many of us very abusive because of that. I have a degree in psychology, and it's known, well documented in psychology, that people who have been victims of sexual assault are often sexual abusers themselves. Okay, so this is commonly known. So Joel 3:3 tells us, and they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. Okay, so this is as far back as in biblical times. This is nothing new. This has been going on. But now, because now is coming Mashiach, now Yahshua is about to enter into the world, and he wants this house cleaned up. So every dark thing has got to be exposed, and every dark, deviant, perverse thing has got to be taken out of the way to make way for the coming of the Messiah. He's about to enter into the earth. He wants this house cleaned up. Okay, so let's just get into one of the sexual assault victims of the Hollywood elite, and let's hear her testimony. And this is going to be given by the Diddy got a podcast YouTuber. He's going to bring to our attention the testimony of Miss Carter, who's going to tell us what happened to her. She's been at this. She's a warrior. She's been at this since 2021, trying to sound the alarm that there are many who we look to as idols. See, the Father is casting down all idols. We have looked to these people as idols, idol worshiping, and she's going to let you know how many of them were involved in her sexual assault that many of us idolize. I do not. Thankfully, I've been on this journey some 30 some years, so I don't idolize these celebrities. I already know they're just people, and they have flaws, and like everyone else. So I don't put people on pedestals like that. But the scriptures tell us having no regard for the flesh. You see, we shouldn't even be looking at people like that, but many do. So your idols are about to be cast down before you. So just listen to her testimony.
Today, I came across this video of a woman by the name of Allison Lelaney Carter, who has said a lot of crazy things. Like, a lot is happening here in the year of 2024, bro. Like this is a lot. But this interview right here, well, not this interview, this video right here that I'm about to show you is absolutely groundbreaking. It's absolutely groundbreaking. She talks about, she's accusing Diddy, and she has been accusing Diddy for years. So it's not like she's just hopping on the bandwagon and it's a trend. No, she's been accusing Diddy for years. It's documented. And she's upset because people weren't believing her. Authorities were not taking her claim serious until now, when it's popular and it's a trend and he's been arrested. Now they want to listen to her. She accused people like Young Jock. I believe it. She accused people like Birdman. I believe it. But she also accused people like Denzel Washington. I don't know these people. I'm not defending these people. But let's be honest. Objectively speaking, as clean of a career as Denzel Washington has had, even the movie roles that he has, he's very particular even about those. That's a bit surprising. But I believe her. I absolutely believe her. The amount of detail that she goes into in this video, talking about what she experienced with these celebrities, is mind-blowing. Before we watch the video, man, I'm going to ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel. But I'm also going to read out the affidavit. She didn't post all of it, but what she did post, I'm going to read it out to you. Let's check it out. All right, here's the affidavit. It says, Brian Christopher Williams, a.k.a. Birdman, a.k.a. Baby, date of birth 2/15/69. Number 2, Denzel Hayes Washington Jr. Number 3, Sean Love Combs, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Diddy. And Giselle Amon Robinson, a.k.a. Young Jock. The Playboy Mansion after party held in Simi Valley on or around 2009-2010 while I was in foster care. I, Allison Lelaney Carter, previously known as and she blanks the name out. Outlaw attests under oath the following account of my and all my altered parts personal experiences to be true and accurate to the best of our knowledge regarding the Playboy Mansion after party attended by Birdman, Denzel, Diddy, and Young Jock. My date of birth is 2/15/94, and this party was on or around, and it cuts off there. And I was born in 94 as well, so we talking about in what year she's saying? She's saying this was in 2009, 2010, so that's 14 years ago. So she had to been around, what, 15, 16 years old? This is very small writing, but it says, favors mean that the kids are literally set on a table and had to work for people to come choose them for sex. Once they were done having sex, the kids were placed back on the party favor table, and someone else could. You know what? I'm not gonna read this. I'm not gonna read this. I mean, I'm just not gonna read this. Y'all are gonna. I'll put it on the screen. Y'all can read it. And y'all can just pause the screen. I'm not reading that, bro. Like, that's absolutely disgusting. It's disheartening. It angers me. It upsets me. It saddens me. It infuriates me. I'm not reading that, bro. Like, I'm already putting this video on YouTube to begin with. I'm not reading that, bro. Y'all can read that, bro. I'm not reading it out loud. Let's see if this portion here is a little better. It says, there was no one to elf backstage. This comedian broke the no backdoor sex rule and had, oh my gosh, I'm not reading this, bro. I'm not reading this. I'm just going to give you a summary. Essentially, she said that she attended while underage. She said, first and foremost, she said she was a part of child trafficking. She was a part of a child trafficking ring to an extent, right? Essentially. She said she attended this Playboy Mansion party where she was the party favorite. As a child, she was placed on tables, and the adults that was attending this party would come through, and they would get to choose what child they wanted, etc., etc. And she said that it was so many different celebrities and different people that she recognized that she can't remember them all. But she vividly remembered Birdman. She vividly remembered Denzel Washington. She vividly remembers Young Jock and Diddy, which are very specific people that are in some cases not even affiliated with each other, which makes it all that more believable in my opinion.
I never thought that we would see the day where Diddy would get arrested, and I told you guys in that Maria Z interview in 2021 that no one tells on Diddy. P. Diddy. Alright? Just the same way nobody tells on Denzel Washington. People don't usually talk and stop and think about the children victims that are going through things right now as we speak, and the ones who suffered through all this bullshit. I decided to stop for a second and do some projects with projects all around, because we just said, you know what? This is our life. It's not changing. We stopped somewhere, and I've been hiding. My mom and I have been hiding. We've had our head down. We've tried to back up. We've tried to tell you everything that we can, and now we have people messaging us, investigators, people that want to talk now, when now it's because it's trending. We're still not on the subject of the kids. All the adults are covering their asses. All the adults are, I left at a certain time, yet you knew children were there. You knew these parties were not okay. They weren't freak-offs. They were satanic ritual orgies. Get it straight. It wasn't just adults in these parties. The adults were responsible for the child slaves that were in the party. And one of those children were me. Now, those who are trying to come at us now, talking like, oh, well, now the Diddy's out, now that you can talk. For why? Because we tried to have a case with Child Protective Services. We gave them 8 months worth of evidence. 8 months worth of evidence. That didn't even do a crumb. They took that case and they hid it. If you are a survivor and if you are a real victim, be careful. Because these hotline numbers that they're putting out, I don't trust them. I wouldn't do it.
They take your information to see what you have.
They're taking inventory.
And then they shut it down. They're taking inventory. So don't trust them. Don't trust the feds. Don't trust the judges. All y'all. You're all guilty. You're all corrupt. Any attorney that's taking money to defend Diddy, you're nasty and vile.
That's blood money.
That's blood money.
That's all blood money. You do know that, right? Whether you take money from him to shut up, whether you take money from him for period, that's blood money. I don't want anybody's money. You see all the people running? They're ducking and hiding because everybody knows that there is children there. But we're still not talking about the kids yet. When are we going to talk about the kids? Everybody's demanding something from the victims. Why aren't you demanding it from the news? You know he's about to turn into another Epstein, and then the list follows, and it circles back into a web. So why isn't anybody demanding any information on the kids? Huh?
Where'd that supply chain come from?
Do you think that thousands of bottles worth of baby oil was for thousands of who? $65,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza was for who? Trafficking over the border was for who? Child Protective Services is your supplier. Is anybody going to talk about that? The immigrants that are coming across the border, that all those kids that they were just scooping up out of boats and out of the water, they're now coming in and they're throwing them right into the system. Aurora, Colorado, Springfield, Ohio. Where do you think all those kids are going? This ain't about an election anymore. Y'all know that, right? The election is canceled. Because everybody that you love, you don't live in the world you think you do. Everybody that you think is not guilty is about to show you who they really are. I've been screaming for years. So now, if you see me over here trying to live a normal life and tying up loose ends as justice, mind your f***ing business. Nobody ever thinks about the victims. Nobody. The victims' lives get turned around when the predators' lives want to just get announced. You slap them on the wrist and you bring up every source of trauma for the victim. But nobody wants to stop and think about that. We're not talking about the victims that are still going through the shit right now with other people who are running to cover their ass and deleting their social medias. Pink, Megan Fox, Tyra Banks, Steve Harvey. Why you running? Our PTSD lives on every damn day that they did what they did. But it's only talked about when it's trending. We got legal evidence to drop. I just don't know what's the point. Yeah, I was at a Diddy party. I was one of the party favors. But I told you, nobody tells on Diddy. Maria Z, I did that interview in 2021, 7 months ago. We made sure, I already knew, that Diddy and Oprah is about to get arrested. I already knew that 7-8 months ago. We went and made sure there were sworn documents. We have them. When we went to Colorado for the A to Z event, we had a lot of legal evidence that we made sure we already had because we knew a list of people were about to get got. You can't run for that long. I'm just shocked we're finally seeing the day.
Listen, man, I believe her. I believe every single...
Okay, so I just want to continue with another survivor of this elite sexual assault with the elites. And
not about what you know, it's about what you can prove in a court of law.
A lot of these children over the years. This is the testimony of Kathy O'Brien, author of Trance-Formation of America. And this is a very, very, I thought, a very good, this is 2001. So this is how far back this goes, 2001. So this is almost 25 years ago that she sounded the alarm, and her and Mark Phillips, Kathy O'Brien, Mark Phillips, wrote the book Trance-Formation of America. And I will put the PDF in the description of this video. But this is going to be a group that read the book and their reactions to the book, and they are going to ask Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips some questions and give their assessment as to the believability of what they read in the book. I thought it's 10 minutes long, but it's going to be very eye-opening for what's really happening in this country. Just bear in mind, this discussion took place in 2001. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you now.
Well, when I heard about the book, it sounded like it was going to be unpleasant to read, but like I should read it if it is true, because I feel like if something's really unpleasant but true, why shouldn't I read it? Because some people had to experience it. And when I started to read it, I kind of started to regret committing to reading the book because it's really ugly.
My first impression of the story was a lot of complete doubt, and because it's such this fringe kind of topic and this really heavy CIA sex slave sort of thing. It was very not believable and hard to believe.
I got the book, started reading it that night, and it was an interesting experience. At first I didn't know how to feel about it. I was oh, this can't be true, or should I even be reading this kind of thing? And, letting these kinds of thoughts and actions into my head, is that safe? Gross at first, scary at times.
Obviously when you first hear it through word of mouth, there's a certain sense of disbelief and, doubt. So, no question, doubt was one of the first things that came to my mind.
What kind of frightened me most about the book was because it was it was so dense with disturbing things that I almost felt as the more that I read it, I was becoming a little bit more desensitized to the whole thing, and that was a little bit frightening.
First of all, I want to thank all of you guys for coming, and this is a great thing for me because I think the goal of this is to interface between Mark and Kathy and people who normally wouldn't attend one of their conferences or who wouldn't get a chance to otherwise meet them. One of the things about the book is that it's very alienating for a lot of people, and it's also outside of the realm of most people's understanding what the world is. And so the idea and intention of the film is to, in some ways, again, make a meeting of the minds or a meeting of the paradigms, if you will. So you've all had a chance to meet Mark and Kathy, but please, I know if you have hard questions and, you need to ask them, not just for yourselves, but for them, because I think that we won't do justice to this process unless, they're asked questions that challenge, what you may or may not be able to accept about the book.
When I was first told of your story, this is before reading the book, the first thought that came to my mind is, if this is true, how are you here to tell this story and you're still alive?
Well, first of all, we have a First Amendment right to express that which we've experienced. The reason I believe we're still alive is a rather complex one. Well, the answer is, to be perfectly candid with you, I had a lot of help from people working within the intelligence community, law enforcement, federal, state, as well as some direction even from some congressmen. That's why we're still alive.
The term handler, I guess this is more directed to both of you. As a handler, this person who, or individual or half demon sort of person, would inflict control upon your life. Who is controlling them?
The handlers that I had were associated with the CIA, but most of all, my owner in MK Ultra Mind Control was U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd, and Senator Byrd directed my activities. He's the one who decided who my handlers would be, and he chose different handlers for certain purposes. My first handler, for example, was for trauma. My second handler was primarily for being able to travel throughout the United States and the Caribbean and Mexico, Canada, and the country music industry. So he chose them according to what they could provide. And as a handler, they followed Senator Byrd's orders, but they were already still associated with the CIA.
This is jumping to a totally different subject, but something that wasn't clear to me in the book was your public image and Kelly's public image?
I'm not real sure on how Kelly would have been perceived, except that she traveled the country music circuit and was exposed to a lot of people rather than going to school like a normal child. And in my case, my public image was one of someone that was also around the country music industry that was probably some kind of an airhead. And people didn't even bother to talk to me for very long. My answers were like, praise the Lord, you know, with a smile, to pretty much everything, which it just went nowhere. There's no depth. There was nothing that could even lead into a conversation, so people wouldn't talk to me any further anyway. They just figured I was just pretty spacey.
It's very apparent to me that you guys have a very close relationship and trust for one another and respect for one another. However, to play devil's advocate, what can you tell me to convince me that you're not her handler now, or you're not using some form of mind control right now in terms of your ability to use hypnotism and your connection still with CIA operatives or people in the know?
The easiest way to tell is,
I want you to listen closely to how Mark Phillips is going to ask this question, because this is the most important question that you could ask him, since he's the one who helped to get Kathy O'Brien out of this MK Ultra programming that she was under, being used as a sex slave by high elites. Okay, she already told you Senator Byrd was her handler, and he was the one that gave instructions to all these other people. So Mark was in the CIA. He was the one who got her out of this. And this question is really the most pivotal question you could ask. But listen to how he's going to respond to this.
we have perceptual differences, and if she were under my control, her perceptions would be my perceptions. A handler says, I'll give you a piece of my mind. And in this case, I gave her mind back. In the very beginning, when I would see her mirroring and matching my cliches or my body language or anything else, that was quite a task for me to change these autogenic response systems within myself to what I had seen her exhibit that seemed to be hers. And I was having to mirror and match her original thoughts. And that's enough to drive you nuts after a while. I was so thankful when she fused together and she was her own person. And I'll never forget the day as long as I live.
Just for the past couple of minutes, I've been having waves of sadness and panic because I'm starting to believe your story. You know, I think I believe it now. And it just kind of affects me because if it's true, like, what are we supposed to do? You know, like, what would you like us to do to? Sorry. But it's so horrible to know that it could have really happened to you.
This is also a very important question. This woman's going to ask Kathy O'Brien, what are we to do after we receive this type of intense, deep, dark information, and we wrap our minds around it and we allow it in, and we allow it to come in and settle to deal with that type of darkness. Watch how Kathy's going to tell her what we do with that darkness. Watch what she's going to tell her. And then I'm going to take this into a little spiritual explanation for everyone.
And what do we do? Like, where do we go? You know? What would you like us to do leaving here now?
All we can do is raise awareness, ultimately, and knowledge is our only defense against it. So we just let other people know, and it's just going to take a whole evolutionary process of humanity to stop it from happening to someone else again, because for now it's still ongoing, and there's more children every day that are being thrust into it, and it has got to stop.
Okay, Kathy, before we get to last thoughts, she said it's going to take a whole evolutionary raise of consciousness of humanity for us to deal with this. So before you can solve any problem, you first have to admit that the problem is there. And many people are walking through life knowing these deep, dark things are occurring all around us at all times. They're literally walking through the shadow of death. You understand? And having to fear no evil. They know that, this type of deep, dark deviancy and perversion is occurring. And they still have to go about their day-to-day lives. Very difficult to do. I wouldn't even want to imagine how Kathy O'Brien, even after having to leave her own daughter in this program, and have to, but she really literally was given the strength, just as Allison Leilani Carter. These people have been strengthened by the Holy Spirit so that they could bring this truth to humanity, to say, hey, this is our problem collectively, because we all have played a part in this by allowing these types of people to operate in society unchecked. We have given way too much power to people because they have money and fame. But the world has to change, and we have to now honor integrity, righteousness, wholesomeness, a love for humanity, a love for our brothers and our sisters, people who have a deep caring compassion for others. These are the people that now have to come into play. These people have had their day. We've been in this darkness, and the light is now entering into the world, and it's really a glorious time. It's an exciting time to witness mankind make this transformation from darkness to light. So let's finish. Let's just hear the end of this discussion that they had.
Actually, I was having a similar thought before she said it. I want to say, just I think that's what I will take away from it, is just her eyes, just the. Here's my moment. No, just the peace that I see within her.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Let me ask, what would you, that piece, is it something that you think is uncommon, or think it's only compared to what you read? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and compared to what I read, I'm going to tell you the things I imagine in her dealing with it, or picking up those pieces, or, obviously she didn't know, but just the kind of person that I would be meeting in those preconceptions. So, I was completely thrown for a loop, but in a really wonderful way.
It was very real. It was very intense. These two people seemed to be extremely coherent and have not only their story together, but their minds together as well. And it's an extremely validating experience to have them say these things to your face.
So it kind of makes me a little pissed, and also it's going to be a little hard knowing this story exists and when the right time is to bring it up, because holding this story back from the public is a crime in itself. So I want to spread the word, but again, you have to be careful where and when and who you tell this to, if you're going to have the time to back it up and let her sit in there.
Mm-hmm. I really was already pretty much a ready believer in that sense. So this really more just confirmed it and allowed me to feel some more of that truth.
Cool.
Well, when I first started reading the book, people noticed that I was acting a little different. Like, what's the matter with you? Because I was preoccupied. I think I was sort of shocked that I had read that, and the one protective shield that I had was the layer of doubt. And I think that's how we function in general in society. Is like you watch this horrible news story in Bosnia, and you're kind of like, don't really want to deal with it. And so I had this wave of panic where I was like, oh my God, I believe this, and it just changes everything. I don't really know what to do. I don't really want to be alone tonight. Like, it's just one of those things where, okay, so I've had this earth-shattering experience.
So I just wanted to say this was the Trance-Formation of America retrospective from GNN. So I will list the video in the description. But I just wanted people to be aware of the fact that this is a very powerful, but I want to go and just take it into something spiritual. And and that is to talk about the parable with the rich man and Lazarus, because I think that's what came to my mind. I think it's the 16th chapter of Luke, if I remember. Yeah, Luke 16. So let's go to Luke 16. And I just want to talk about the rich man and Lazarus, because I really want to get back to P. Diddy. I hope he sees this. I do believe there is some redemptiveness for P. Diddy, because he's never used his platform to deceive people that he was something other than a bad boy. That was the name of his company, Bad Boy. So when you meet somebody and they tell you, I'm bad boy, what else you expect them to do but be bad? So he never was deceptive in who he was. He projected the image that I do what I want, when I want, how I want, and he never projected any other type of image to the world. So for that, he was not deceptive, you know. So I believe there is a redemptive quality about him, because he didn't deceive anybody. Everybody kind of knew that's what he was, and you got into his world at your own risk, you know. So I wanted to, this is what came to mind with P. Diddy, because I want to bring it back to mankind as a whole, because the creator of heaven and earth, he looks at us as a whole. And so I'm going to read about the rich man, and I'm going to show you how this is testifying to what's happening with this P. Diddy situation, with the Bill Cosbys, with the Epsteins, with the Harvey Weinsteins. It's all telling us about mankind collectively, as a collective, as a human family. Okay. So listen closely, and you're going to hear this in a whole new way as I explain the spiritual significance to you. Luke 16 and 19. There was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died, and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died, and was buried. And in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. And beside all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Then he said, I pray thee therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto him, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. And this is where we are in time, people. If you're going to be redeemed and have any chance at salvation, you're going to have to hear the true preaching of the true evangel, which is to go back to Moses and the prophets, so that you can understand why Yahshua Mashiach even came into the world, so that he could fulfill the law and the prophets. But you got to start there so you can understand how he accomplished salvation. Okay? You're not going to have an appreciation for what Mashiach did without knowing how he did it and why he did it. you see. And that's to go back to Moses and the prophets. But this rich man is testifying to the people of the United States, you see, of America. They have fared sumptuously every day. We have lived in the wealthiest nation ever known to man. We've got food in every store. You know, we have all of these resources. You can't go but maybe a half a mile and there's a clean restroom you can use. Food in the stores. Buffets where you can just eat. You know, they have the all-you-can-eat buffets. And my late mother used to often say when we go out to eat, one day, these same people will not have food to eat. And all this food that they throw away, they're going to remember this food. Because it used to just really agitate us to see people just pick over food and throw food away. And we throw enough food away in the United States of America every day that could feed an entire other third world country. That's how much food we throw away every day. And the creator is just fed up. He's just done with this country. He's finished. He's done. Because of the gluttony, of the extravagance, of the arrogance that you feel like because you live in America, you should have better than the next person. That's not the heart of Mashiach. That's not the heart of the Messiah. If you don't feel for other people, you don't have his heart. Okay? That is a clear indicator you don't have the heart of the Messiah. You have to feel deeply for what's happening to other people around the world. Now, the rich man fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which laid at his gates full of sores. See, all of these countries that the United States goes into and takes their resources so that we can fare sumptuously every day. And we drain the resources of other nations. So they are like Lazarus. They're at our door laying there full of sores. See, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which would fall from our table. You see, that's that's us. Here we sit at the top of the heap of humanity. And he's saying, and this is how P. Diddy was. He fared sumptuously. He was the face of Ciroc, and he was flying in his private jets and mansions on every coast. Fared sumptuously every day. And yet his people are set to have zero wealth come 2050. What hospital did he build? What clinics did he start? What schools did he invest in? What nonprofits did he put money into to help his people? Or help any people? You see, he was living fat and living large, just like this rich man. Hopefully he won't find himself, without repenting of all of that, in the same state and condition of the rich man in this parable. And this is why Mashiach said, what profiteth a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? But who you look down on all your life, who you thought, oh, I'm living better than them, I eat better than them. Many of those same people, P. Diddy, they will see you in the kingdom while they are living the lavishness of the creator of the universe. See, his lavishness is far greater than any lavishness you had on this earth. Many people that you look down on you're going to be seeing those same people in a kingdom prepared for them while you are in the lake of fire. So I would ask P. Diddy, if he sees this video, to please repent. There's little time left. All of us need to repent who have fared sumptuously in the United States at the detriment of other countries around the world. This is not the heart of Mashiach. We are supposed to feel deeply, because he said, whatever you do for the least of those amongst you, you do unto me. And let that be all of our testimony. Whatever we do for the least of these amongst us, we do it for Mashiach. He is watching, people. He is real. This is not a joke. You will soon meet your maker. Hallelujah.